Hey, welcome back or welcome to my channel, where I ramble about FNAF at an ungodly hour of the night. Today I'm going to be talking about the different FNAF retcons, in my opinion. So remember, some of this is either wrong or subjective. Don't fight me? I don't know. Scott Cawthon has gone on record to say that there's only been one retcon, and to give credit, he said this about games 4 to 5, so, you know, that obviously is not true now. However, I don't think that was the truth then either, hence why I'm making this video. So, let's begin. 1. The Crying Child. During FNAF 4, the Crying Child was made out to be an incredibly important character. One of the few living, although temporarily, humans that we see. We spend an entire game leading up to the bite. He's an Afton, and we all know they're the main characters. We see the line, "I will put you back together." But then, he was immediately dropped as soon as his location started, and from that point, he was never spoken of again. We never get a confirmed name, he's never credited with possessing anyone or anything, or infecting with agony. He seemingly gets replaced as William's potential motivation by Elizabeth, and he's never actually gotten a second chance. He is not Gregory, stop it. It feels like Scott decided that he was done with the Crying Child story and immediately scrapped him. 2. The box. Same with the Crying Child, the box is teased to be very important. But then, after FNAF 4, Scott decided that the fans wouldn't be happy with its contents, which means he scrapped it. Fair enough. However, this means that any story that was planned around the box or was being built up already around the box was also scrapped, meaning this is a retcon. 3. The Nightmares. The Nightmares are one of the easiest examples to prove a retcons in the FNAF story, and also just their origins in general. Going from dreams, which is mainly to do with Matt Pat's Dream Theory videos, but also it's egged on by Scott, so, you know, both parties are guilty. To real creations from William with the potential use of the sound illusion discs, which were introduced in the Silverized books, to then apparently being Fear Gas and Endos on tracks, which we hear about in Dysphobia. It's a little bit confusing to figure out what they actually are. Plus the sketch on the security logbook by who we assume to be Michael, which is labelled with "Do you still have dreams?" meaning maybe they are still dreams. It's a little bit confusing, and as you can imagine, it makes it very, very difficult to figure them out. And I'd say at least one of those is a retcon. 4. The Halloween 4 DLC. When the Halloween DLC was released, we were told that the contents were 100% non-canon. However, multiple of the DLC nightmares have appeared in other confirmed canon games, like Ultimate Custom Night, Help Wanted 1 and 2, and the Night Marionette plushes in SecurityBreach and Ruin. Quick note about the both Help Wanted games. Because obviously games 1 to 4 and 5 and 6 maybe are potentially no longer real, and they're just games of actual events in the actual games. It's confusing, don't think about it too long, your head's gonna hurt. There is a chance that that's because they are game characters, and that's why they're in this in-game game. I don't know. If it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, I can't help you, I'm sorry. However, this makes figuring out what we should and shouldn't consider canon from the Halloween DLC, and just in general, much more difficult. 5. The first 4 games. Due to the hiring a game designer to make games that mimic the real FNAF events storyline from Help Wanted 1, yes, I literally just mentioned that, there's a chance that FNAF 1 through 4, and potentially 5 and 6, are questionably canon. This means we can't trust essentially anything from the original games due to them potentially just being games based off actual events. I'd say that's a retcon, because where the hell did that come from? It was a little surprising, to put it lightly. 6. Henry. 3 deaths. Henry is a confusing case. He is potentially killed by Baby in FNAF World, if this isn't just actually a Scott self-insert. He then kills himself in the Silverized books with his very interesting choice of a murder endo, which... okay. And then, obviously in FNAF 6, he sets himself and everyone else on fire. We make jokes that William always comes back, but Henry isn't that far behind. Another potential retcon including Henry is the questionable origins of Baby. In the books, it's 100% confirmed that Henry made Baby as a Charlie bot, her adult form, which, if it applies to the games, does raise the question of whether or not Charlie is at all present in Baby's configuration, or at least Henry's agony replicating Charlie. Don't think about it too much, it'll make your head hurt. But, in the books, after Henry makes Baby as adult Charlie and then goes, actually, I don't think I like you that much, and throws her out, then kills himself, William takes her in, makes her into the murderous manipulator that we all know and love, but in the games, we don't actually know. At the start of Sister Location, we hear William take credit for her creation when being asked about quote-unquote certain design choices. However, we know that William is the type to lie about this due to his, to put it lightly, massive fucking ego. So, the question is, are the games parallel to the books when it comes to the creation of Baby? Was William making Baby retconned in for the books, and thus also retconning the games? Which would be weird, because the books and Sister Location were released pretty much overlapping each other. We don't actually know. You never will. 7. The puppet. Now, this is a subject I am quite passionate about, so I am going to cut it short so I don't spend 50 minutes ranting about this. In the beginning, the puppet was seemingly being hinted to be the crying child, which we know from 1. The FNAF 3 minigame pose, 2. The design similarities, the tears, the stripes, come on, let's put 2 and 2 together, the fact that they're both humanoid, I don't know. The protector role, which the puppet takes, and which would make sense for the crying child taking, considering he was a bullied kid, who then was given the ability to protect other children from said bullying / his father going on a rampage. Plus, as the crying child was one of the earliest deaths we know of, 1983, the puppet being around that long wouldn't be that weird. We know the puppet has to be around long enough to put the souls in the FNAF 1 animatronics, and if he was just chilling there the whole time, then yeah, it would make sense. 8. Circus Baby. Aside from the who made Baby debate, there's a second potential retcon about Baby, and that's what happened to her personality. She went from willing to murder her dad to escape from the torture basement he threw her in, plus using Elizabeth's voice to try and gaslight who she thinks is Will so he'll give up on fighting against her, to then having a speech in FNAF 6 where she claims she's quote-unquote going to make him proud by murdering random people for him. This is a very stark change, and a very sudden change, which caught quite a few people off guard. And we never even get a reason for it. A common theory that people use to explain this is that in Sister Location, Baby is in control, and in FNAF 6, Elizabeth is in control, due to the different referring of pronouns. Because Baby refers to Elizabeth as she, and then in FNAF 6, she refers to William as Dad, which she didn't do in the first one, so it was a bit weird. But we don't actually get any confirmation for this, or really much of a hint. There is a scene in Sister Location where there is a chip that comes out of her shoulder, if I'm correct, or upper arm. And we take it out, and we put it in the hand. Held dude. Yep. And then Baby's like, this'll let me talk to you through the hand unit. I remembered its name. But now, while a lot of people like to say that when we remove that chip, it is either removing the Elizabeth part or the Baby part, this can't work. Because if we remove the Baby part, then her having to pretend to be Elizabeth is weird. And if we remove the Elizabeth part, then her pretending to be Elizabeth is weird, because she wouldn't be able to do that. Unless she has the sound mimicking, and then she might. The removing of Elizabeth doesn't make sense, because then she couldn't be Elizabeth in FNAF 6. So either way, neither of them work. So I think the chip is actually, and I did get this idea from the FNAF YouTuber whose channel I will be throwing up on screen right now. But this chip being removed and put in a handheld device may potentially be doing its actual function, which is letting Baby speak through it. But it's to explain why Baby's voice, which would be coming from Ennard, is still following Michael in the room and through the hallway all the way to the scooper room when he's just sent Baby's body, which the voice would be coming from, off to the scooper room to go get scooped so the quote-unquote bad thing that she is claiming to be in there can be taken out. 9. Golden Freddy. Another interesting one. Golden Freddy went from being potentially hallucination to potentially being the crying child to then being two spirits in one body, then, seemingly, only Cassidy, because she's the only one we hear anything about, and then, due to the FNAF Help Wanted 1's retcons, may not even be real anymore. As you can imagine, this once again makes it incredibly difficult to figure out what Golden Freddy's deal is due to the conflicting identities. 10. The whole damn timeline. Just the entire thing. Genuinely couldn't go into detail. I tried, I started writing it, and it didn't stop. This video would be too damn long. I deeply apologize for not going into this, but, you know, if people want me to, maybe one day I will make a video specifically about the timeline, and its retcons, if that's what people want. Who knows? We'll see. 11. WilliamAfton. Movie versus games. For a very long time, we've assumed that Mike Schmidt and WilliamAfton were one and the same. However, with the introduction of the FNAF movie, it presents us with an issue. If we use the logic that the games, books, and movies are just parallels to each other, and not all one story, is this something that we take as definitive fact for the games, being the identity of Mike Schmidt and WilliamAfton? Is this just a movie-exclusive part of the canon? Once again, we may not know. However, maybe the second movie will answer some of the questions. 12. Vanny/Vanessa. Since the burning down the Pizzaplex ending and the Vanny-Vanessa statue, the question of are they the same person or separate has been a constant debate. The evidence for them being the same person is overwhelming, to put it lightly. But there's been just a few little wrenches thrown in there, and while not a proper retcon, I wanted an excuse to complain about it, because it seems like they'd originally planned, before all the cuts to SecurityBreach, they had originally planned to make this some kind of like super deep twist and red herring thing, but then clearly it was scrapped with everything else. 13. Glamrock Freddy. In Ruin, we see the words prototype printed on Freddy's foot. This raised some eyebrows, as the potential connotations of this will mess with the ending that we view as canon for SecurityBreach. If we view this as meaning that our Freddy and the Freddy we find in Ruin are completely different, this means that the Princess Quest ending does not have as much evidence, and that there's a decent chance that if that is the case, then the Burn Trap ending is actually the canon one, which I'll get into that, don't worry. Burn Trap is number 14. We'll get there. But obviously the Freddy that we find, and our Freddy in the Princess Quest ending, both have the same damage. Missing head, because Gregory stole it. Torn up body, because of the disassemble Freddy thing from Vanny. So it seems like we're not meant to think they're different, and they just threw prototype on his foot for, I don't know, the fun of it. 14. Burn Trap. I told you it was the next one. Originally planned to be an unmoving blink and you'll miss it encounter. If you don't believe that, you can go check the Dorco and Scott interview. I think it's the second one. I just didn't want to look through the entire thing to find it. To then becoming the surprise attack boss fight in SecurityBreach, the origins of Burn Trap seem to have shifted over time, going from Glitch Trap puppeting the fixed up remains of a burnt up scrap trap, to being the mimic wearing Will's skin, to potentially not being real due to the Gregory drawing the endings thing in Ruin. This is another case of Steelwall changing things between games instead of sticking to a certain plotline. 15. William. Much like his daughter, William's character and motivations seem to shift game to game. Yes, Scott, you're the exact same as Steelwall is when it comes to sticking to a concrete story. He goes from a generic slasher to a mad scientist, jumping into a completely different suit somehow, to a digital virus/replica of himself. And I think William is just the ditto of the FNAF universe. 16. FNAF 6. The ending specifically. The ending of FNAF 6 was a wonderful end to the first 6 games. A beautifully written script, amazingly delivered by voice actor Dave Steele, plus the confirmation that because heat destroys Remnant, which we see in the blueprints for the scooper, an inescapable fire should have burnt away any of the lingering spirits, finally freeing William's victims as death itself finally claims William, ending the cycle. And then Glitchtrap appeared, and then the Blob appeared, and then Burntrap appeared, and all of those guys, whether they be Agony, or actual spirits, or the Mimic 1 virus, are all real confusing because none of them should have happened if FNAF 6 actually worked. 17. Security Breach, also the endings. I've briefly mentioned this already, but the confusion surrounding which ending is canon has been a fierce debate. During Security Breach, due to it being the only fully animated and voice-acted ending, the Burntrap ending seemed to be the likely choice. However, then Ruin was released, which seemed to confirm the Princess Quest ending due to the lamp and the sword and the Glitchtrap silhouette plastered on the wall and the Freddy state. Due to the confusion, this has led a fair amount of people to still stick by the Burntrap ending, as it was the one that came first. However, likelihood is, based on what we've seen, the Princess Quest ending is likely now canon. But don't worry, this was definitely a retcon. You're not technically wrong, I suppose. Well, wasn't that fun? You deserve a prize for sitting through all that. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, I'd love it if you liked or subscribed. And if there's any theories or FNAF opinions that you'd like to see a video about, leaving a comment is a surefire way to make that happen. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.